All right, everybody, welcome back. It is Sunday. It's the Lord's Day. Thanks for hanging out with me. I'm your host, Dave Lilly Jr. Right down there at the screen. Before we get started with the little thing scrolling across the bottom says like and subscribe, you jabronis. I apologize for the harsh language, but you are in fact a jabroni, and you should in fact like and subscribe. Let's go and get rid of that. No one wants to see that the whole time. I don't know if you know this, but I'm an artist. Some stuff behind me, stuff like that. And I recently, oh yeah, I was supposed to get rid of that. Let's hide this. Let me do this real quick. Oh wow, here's some breaking news. I have no idea what I'm doing. Hold on. I recently published a book. It's called By Every Meaningless Measure. Boom. It's got poetry and art combined to one. It's a great book. It's a huge book. It's the best book. They tell me it's the best book out there. It's a collection of all my works for the past decade, all my fine art and all my best poetry smashed into one. And you're going to love it because it all circles around philosophy and theology. It talks a lot about Jesus and a lot of biblical references in there, along with the art, biblical references as well. It's a great book. Go to pardonwell.com right now. You can order yourself a copy. You can order yourself a signed copy. Nope, line. There's a button for it. Haven't figured that one out yet. Internet and websites and stuff are hard to figure out. But either way, go there and buy my book after you like and subscribe. Let's get rid of that too. As you can see in the title, we're going to go for a little bit R&R, aka rule rage. And the reason I'm bringing that up is because I didn't understand this, but on Twitter and X, white rural rage hashtag was trending. And since I'm an idiot, I'm like, this is dumb. This seems dumb. But you know what? It is an election year, so I was like, let's click on a few things. Let's see what this is about. Most of it revolved around a clip I'm going to show you here in a minute, but it was actually hilarious because a lot of people are just retweeting this clip with their GIF of what they think white rural rage is. Most of them were like rednecks on their porch dancing with raccoons. All fun and humor, all the fun stuff. All the things I like to see when I see stupid things trending, like something like white rural rage. But before we get to this clip that I'm going to play in a little bit, I was like, this does sound kind of familiar. You guys remember when General Milley, after the J6 thing happened, he got up there and I think it was during the whole J6 committee, and he was like, you know what? I read all these communist manifesto books, and I just don't understand why people are so mad, especially these whites over here. And I'm white, and I don't get it. I don't understand this white rage. And he used those words, white rage. So I was like, this is added to the lexicon, because you could have said anything. You sound like white, rural, whatever. But the subtitle, well, actually, let's go and watch this clip so you can see. So I don't have to catch you up on everything. I don't have to tell the story. We can just watch this together. So I found this clip. We're gonna watch it, and we're gonna see what's going on with this white rural rage thing.
Joining us now, Professor of Political Science at the University of Maryland, Baltimore County, Tom Schaller, and journalist and opinion writer Paul Waldman. Their new book, out tomorrow, is entitled White Rural Rage, the Threat to American Democracy. And Tom, we'll start with you. Why are white rural voters a threat to democracy at this point? You would think, as we pointed out, looking at Joe Biden's background and Donald Trump's, that the opposite would be true.
I mean, we lay out the fourfold interconnected threat that white rural voters pose to the country. First of all, and we show 30 polls and national studies to demonstrate this. So we provide the receipts in Chapter 6. They're the most racist.
Actually, hold on. We're going to pause and
anti-
walk through this real quick. I'm going to back up. I want you to hear this real quick, because I don't understand this. This is how much of an idiot I am.
The threat that white rural voters pose to the country. First of all, and we show 30 polls and
you would think, as we pointed out, looking at Joe Biden's background and Donald Trump's, that the opposite would be true.
Right. All right. So let's stop there real quick. I'm going to split screen this way. This thing. All right. So obviously not a big Morning Joe fan. I love coffee. Don't know what Morning Joe is. Don't watch the news. So I'm super behind, obviously, from everything. What are they talking about? Obviously, this wouldn't be true. Are they saying like that if we look at the two political candidates, the front runners, if we look at their backgrounds, it would inform us on how white rural people would vote? I don't understand this. Maybe I should go watch Morning Joe. Not gonna. Maybe I should have. But I did find that kind of weird. Like, are they setting? It seems like she's volleying up a ball at this spike. Like, it's definitely a pre-planned, like scripted phrase to kind of be like, this seems dumb, don't you think? And then they're going to go into be like, well, let me tell you about 30 stats that we pulled. We picked up 30 polls, and you're going to, and this is a bit of a telltale. And I'm going to go deep into this, but this is a bit of a telltale sign. So let's go back to let's keep listening.
I mean, we lay out the fourfold interconnected threat that white rural voters pose to the country. First of all,
Actually, I want you to see full screen. All right, sorry about that.
and we show 30 polls and national studies to demonstrate this. So we provide the receipts in Chapter 6. They're the most racist, xenophobic, anti-immigrant, and anti-gay geodemographic group in the country. Second, they're the most conspiracist group. QAnon support and subscribers, election denialism, COVID denialism and scientific skepticism, Obama birtherism.
Okay. So I'm no scientist by any means, right? So I don't, sure, maybe. But if I was to go to this book and buy this book, not gonna, but if I was gonna read this book and it showed a poll and like, look at all these QAnon supporters, they're all white rural voters. And I bet you I know who they voted for. All 6 of them. Sure. All 6 QAnon subscribers, they all happen to fall in this particular category, but there's 6 of them. So yeah, you don't find them in any other category. These 6 individuals, maybe 7, maybe 8. There's probably at least 10 that are like, I do, but I'm not telling nobody. This was a poll taken. I cannot figure out if are there a ton of like, Midwestern Trump supporters, but like that Q guy, even after everything, they're still like, no, that Q guy was right. Maybe so. We'll give it to him. But even the COVID thing, I mean, he's going to continue to list off this stuff. But even the COVID thing, like, oh, these stupid people with their COVID conspiracies. Oh my God, they got those right. But they're conspiracy theories. Also, I mean, definitely don't Google this, but I'm pretty sure conspiracy theorists, that phrase came around right around the JFK assassination. I don't think the CIA made it up, but you'll have to Google that. You can go and find out where that term came from. Anyway, let's continue.
Third, anti-democratic sentiments. They don't believe in an independent press, free speech. They're most likely to say the president should be able to act unilaterally without any checks from Congress.
Okay, hold up. Hold up. So you're telling me all the people that are like, this Biden guy, he's overreaching, he's putting people in political jails, he's blocking everybody up. We're actually for that. Is that what he's saying? Is he saying all these rules? They're like unilateral, give power to the president. He should be a straight up, yeah, just dictator. We want dictator. We're going to talk about this in a minute. But I did want to point out the fact that I don't know how that works. Be like, hey, especially if you drop the Biden thing, like how you feel about the president being able to do whatever they want. I guarantee they're like, yeah, no, this Biden guy's doing a great job. He should just lock everybody up, including me. He should lock me up. Might as well. Like, I believe that. This is a ton of fun. Anyway, let's continue.
Or the courts or the bureaucracy. They're also the most strongly white nationalist and white Christian nationalists. And fourth, they're most likely to excuse or justify violence.
We're going to talk. That was a great freeze frame. Hey, like a little dandruff on that. We're going to talk about this particular segment, white nationalism and white Christian nationalism. I'm going to bring that up here in a little bit because I did a surface dive this week, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But I want you to pay attention to that because I think that was a bit telling. Until
violence as an acceptable alternative to.
Wait, what was that? Hold on, we're having fun. It's Sunday night, guys. We're gonna have fun. Let's just slightly bring that. What's that? What's going on there on the back of the jacket? Or blue jacket? Is that a blue dress? What's going on there? Anyway, that's fun. We have a good time.
Alternative to peaceful public discourse.
So you mentioned a lot of negative factors about this demographic.
All right. Well, I didn't get to see what the rest of it was. We're going to get rid of that. A lot of negative factors about this demographic. Don't know why. The title of the book is White Rural Rage. Don't know why. Here's what I picked up on this whole entire clip. It's an election year. Why wouldn't there be a book that came out calling called White Rural Rage. If this was a grift, it's a great grift. If it was a grift, I don't think so. I think it'll sell a ton of copies, and I bet you it sells a ton of copies to white people, who I don't think are going to read this book are white rural Americans. Not because they can't read. That's a dumb joke. Put that one back in your pocket. But because it doesn't appeal to anybody else. Because most rural Americans are like, "You guys raging out?" Like, "No, I'm digging up potatoes over here." That was the funny thing about this exploding up on Twitter is that these people are so disconnected from anybody outside of the coastal elites. They're so disconnected. They're like, "Hey, how you feel about that white rural raging? You doing that a lot lately?" And they're like, "Yeah, I mean, I put a sign up. I put a Trump flag in my front yard. Is this what raging is now? Is this what they think?" Because the last time I saw raging, it was in 2020, and I don't remember it looking like what I see now with all these white rural Americans doing what? What are they doing? How are they raging? Now, you could say, well, I've seen a ton of these demonstrators walking around these big cities with the Nazi swastika flags. And if you haven't picked up that that's at least 70% feds, 20% informants, and the other 10 are just useful idiots. They probably just like, I was looking for a ride and I showed up, but apparently I got to pretend. The fact that they all wear masks is a dead giveaway too. But let's not talk about the feds pretending to be this entire narrative that's being pushed. And I think I know why it's being pushed. I think everyone knows why it's being pushed. But the telltale sign behind this whole like clip is the whole thing. And I have to say, and I think why I liked Twitter's response to it is because it's supposed to piss you off. And if you're watching this, you're like, man, I don't know about this. This seems like it's baiting. It is, and it's doing it on purpose. I don't think the book is to tell you about white rural rage. I think the book is to get you to be white in the rural area and to rage about it. And so one of the things why I almost didn't want to put that in the title of this live stream is because the one thing about bait is I hate putting it out there. These people have no integrity, so they'll do it anyway. They'll name the book after that. They could have named their book by every meaningless measure. They could have put art and poetry in it. They could have sold a ton of copies. They could have sold it and put it up on pardonlaw.com, but they didn't. Instead, they titled their book White Rural Rage just to provoke white rural rage. It's there's a thing for that. I forgot what that's called. Bait and switch. I think that's what it is. But I think that's the whole entire point because I don't know if I've missed something. I'm perpetually online. I'm not caught up. I don't watch the news. I'm just your average guy out here kind of trying to listen to what people are saying. And I don't know how much white rural rage is happening. And maybe if it is, it's getting kicked off the internet. They don't want you to see it. But that would seem like the internet is definitely trying to hide this proverbial rage that we see. Even the stupid demonstrators that are walking in big cities, they're just, I haven't seen any fights break out. Why wouldn't fights? I mean, I saw a few people that were white rural Americans being like, take the masks off, feds. They're all being called feds. If you were locked into that, you're like, you know what, this whole white nationalism thing is my gig. At what point in time do you go, oh man, my brother's over there calling me a fed? Maybe this is dumb. Wouldn't you at some point in time be like, how come all these people that are, we're fighting for you, you're white, why are you yelling at me? It's because you're an idiot. Or you're a fed. Or you're a fed and an idiot. Sorry to all my feds out there watching this. I'm gonna have to say both. But the thing that I thought was great is because it does seem like no one's falling for it. And I would hope that's true. Now, I've spent enough time on the internet in some different, like, not chat rooms, but discourse, I'll say, that this idea, and he brought it up and he mixed the two. And I thought this was what's like clued me into something because I kept hearing this term Christian nationalism pop up. And I was like, I don't know if I quite understand what Christian nationalism is. To me, it seems kind of oxymoronic, kind of. But I think I understand it because I've had enough conversations with people like, we need to bring back a monarchy and this is a Christian nation and we need Christian morals and have a Christian politic and whatever that means. So I've talked to enough people, but the reasoning behind that is only because of the pendulum swing. We've seen the world, and this is, I'm going to go deep into this, or at least as deep as I can. We've seen the world shift from like a classical liberal concept, kind of a founding fathers were like, it's about autonomy and freedom and responsibility, into this hard like veer off where like now we're drag storybook hour and we're going to make sure your kid doesn't tell you that they're trans, and we're going to do all this all the crazy stuff. I think it's just a pendulum swing. People are looking around being like, this used to be a Christian nation. Now we got all the institutions are taking over. We got to do something. We got to fight back. We got to go. We got to white roll rage it out, And I think that concept has maybe picked up a bunch of people, but most of the time, that white roll rage definitely just seems like people joining their school board, going like, please stop this. Please take these books out of the school library. Please stop having these story hours. It's kind of creepy. And all of the whole FBI thing that came out, and they're like, well, arresting people for going to school board meetings and stuff like that. It kind of shows you, it's like, well, what do you mean by rage? And that was the same thing that Millie brought up. It's like this white rage. Because if you were to take the best example, let's talk J6, white rage. Again, were they raging out? For sure. Were they all white? No. But I guess it's the biggest demographic. It's an easy pinhole to take all of this and shove them in. But on top of that, they started arresting people who just happened to be in the city, or just happened to say something online, or just so happened to know somebody who said something online, and then or just happened to be a journalist, which we saw this past week from the Blaze. Just happened to, I'm a jurist with credentials. No, you're going to jail too. So this concept, it seems like if you compile all this up together, they're just doing it just to get you riled up, which seems like a giant honeypot. And if it seems like a giant honeypot, chances are it is. And so the one thing that I thought I would talk about tonight is, let's not uh, go for honeypots. And the best thing to do when stupid books come out titled White Roll Rage is to laugh at it. Post a meme, post a GIF, and pretend like these people are children, because that's what they are. Um, Now, in the juxtaposition of this concept, do I think that white supremacy and white nationalism is an issue? I think it could be an issue if people are reactionary to this. The majority of the rural people that I know that are hardcore right wingers, they're sensible enough. I talked about this the last time. They're nuanced enough. They're sensible enough that they're not looking to hurt anybody. And the ones who want to push back, they're only doing as they're only thinking about concepts like, I need to vote harder, I need to get more involved. Um, I don't know. Maybe I'm just not running around the cool circles with all the informants trying to kidnap a governor. If you guys remember that story, with 12 of them being feds and like 2 being idiots. Yeah, I don't think I see that often, and it doesn't sound like it's something super scary to me. Now, on the off chance it is, on the off chance that all these feds out here with their Nazi symbols going through DC and all these big towns with their flags, I'm not even sure what they're trying to do. Are they trying to recruit because they look like idiots? Do they think they look? Do they think they look cool? I mean, they're all wearing cool khakis. The khakis are in, right? With the cargo pants. No, they're not in. Would you say? No, they're not in. They don't look cool. They don't look. They look like idiots. Now, do they think that if we, march down the street, they'll know there's a presence here? If if you were a hardcore white nationalist, white supremacist, hardcore, and you were going after it, um, would you use a tactic like dressing up and protesting? Maybe, probably not, because most of the people who that's just not the right wing. The other wing likes to dress up and march. Um, it doesn't happen that often on the right, so I don't see them taking their leave of their sick days off of their plant job to go walk around DC with their flag. If I was a Fed, you get paid, so it makes sense for Feds to walk around dressed up like that, because you're paying for it. That's just how it goes. So it's paid time off. Oh yeah, I forgot to open up the chat. I'm not going to show it, but anyway. So I did a little bit of a dive this week. I had a buddy of mine, James. Shout out to James. He hit me up with a bunch of links because I was like, "What is this nonsense?" Because he mentioned white nationalism and then Christian nationalism, and I haven't heard Christian nationalism brought up in any particular, unless it's some fringe thing where people are, uh, I don't know, LARPing. Maybe they're not LARPing. Maybe I'm wrong about that. But I just don't remember hearing this term brought up any time in the past, and all of a sudden it seems to pop up everywhere. I thought it was a bit of a joke. Um, Actually, turns out that it's not. And so I did a short dive, and the best resource I found was this guy named James Lindsay. Some of you guys might know who he is. He has a podcast called New Discourses, and great podcast. And he is a classical liberal, not a Christian, but he does write a ton about Marxism and communism and the woke and the mind virus that is. And he breaks down this idea that Christian nationalism is a psyop, basically like QAnon all over again. Now, I'm not going to do it justice. I'm not smart enough. Plus, it was a surface level dive. I got other things I'm doing. The last thing, and I mean, I'm probably already on a watch list. Last thing I'm doing is like Christian nationalism on my phone without incognito mode. But in the surface level, it does seem like a bit of a psyop. There's like secret societies involved, a ton of money going into this concept, and then you have prominent right wingers touting this concept that the country's falling apart, the government's overtaken. What we need is a hard right wing Christian stance to snatch it from the fiery depths of hell. Um, and I have something to say about that. We're going to go into that towards the end, 'cause you guys know I love talking theology. But he says it's a bit of a psyop, and I'm starting to see that as you can actually include all of this. I think the whole thing is a psyop. Going back to the book being written and put it out there on Morning Joe. Nothing like starting your morning off with a little bit of white roll rage. Um, I think it's all a bit of a psyop because even in a concept of, and this might just be my libertarian stances in the foreground. Any kind of concept that takes any authoritative power, and if it's a pendulum swing, say like the left has taken over all the universities, the media, and stuff like that, the best way to combat that would be to pendulum swing, and we need to take over the government. We need to take over all the institutions. I'm actually not seeing that much at all from the right wing. What I'm hearing from the right wing is like, no, no, just don't send your kid to college. Start homeschooling. Start to remove yourself from these institutions because they're just plaguing. They're just teaching your kids to be communists. So go and just start removing. I'm not hearing anything about burning them down or taking them over. Matter of fact, that might have been a complaint from most right wingers. Like, we're not action enough. The Republicans are, they're slacking. We should be doing more to take this thing over. And then there was a clip that came out, and I thought this was very indicative of the sentiment behind how the right wing feels. There's a clip that came out. I don't know where it was, some kind of C-SPAN convention, whatever. Don't know, don't care. Either way, it made the news because Jack Posobiec got up there and was like, we're going to take our democracy back. They thought J6, blah, 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 blah. And this isn't about, we don't believe government's God. We believe God is the God of Almighty. And so the news took that and they're like, there he goes. They're doing it again. They want to take over the government. And so even in that one comment, I don't even think that helped. Now, was it a joke? Well, yeah, if you have a sense of humor, you picked up on that. If you don't have a sense of humor, your chances are you're on the left because you haven't had a sense of humor in like 10 years. Yeah, you can tell he's being sarcastic in that. I don't even see any formation to want to. Even J6 was, if you were to be like, hey, this J6 thing is an insurrection. If you think that was an insurrection. Oh, okay. Well, that seems pretty pathetic. I say that. I think the J6 thing was a bit pathetic, but at least it at least it didn't get worse. I'm glad it was pathetic for the most part. I don't like what's happening to them, but again, that whole like, let's put, you sneezed by the Capitol on January 6th, you're going to jail for 3 years. That's part of the whole thing. They're pushing the boundaries. They're trying to piss you off. The whole thing is about pissing you off. And James Lindsay talks about that. He talks about the right wing is the right arm of the left wing. Their whole thing is to get you to react, to get you to not think ahead multiple steps. They're going to put stuff out there just for you to react to it. And he talks about that Christian nationalism being a psyop. They're doing that on purpose. And that's why I brought up the white nationalism comment right next to the Christian nationalism comment, because there's tons of Christians out there, and to lump these two groups together is on purpose. Matter of fact, not only did they lump those two, they lumped all of that. So if you were a COVID conspiracy theorist, you just happen to be right, but now you're lumped in with the Christian nationalists and the white nationalists. If you're like, well, was Obama born here? Boom, now you're a white supremacist. What was the other thing they brought up? I'm trying to think now. That clip was so dumb it killed my brain cells. hearing those idiots talk. There's a ton of if you're white and you're rural and you vote for Trump, now you're a white supremacist. That's the point. The point is to lump all these people together and to throw that out to get you to think like that. So James Lindsay talks about this a lot, and I think, and this is again why it perks my ears up because of my libertarian standpoint, but also because of my Christian background. The idea, and he brings this up, this whole movement, this Christian nationalism, we need to take over the government and have Christianity installed everywhere, and then the country will be saved. It's literally just the same coin as the woke left. And I can see that because of a theological background. I think I understand Christianity enough to know that coercion's never worked in favor of Christianity. And we'll talk about that in a minute. But he says just the same side of it's a flip side of the same coin, which definitely seems like it. It's just a reactionary step. If you were to take Christian nationalism and bring it back to 1950, be like, what you need to do as a Christian is just take over the government, and everyone who believes in which I don't think Christians would even be concerned with that. I don't think they would think about that much. I don't even know if that really came up. Again, not a historian, but I don't think that concept was really built in to Christian theology or going back. It definitely seems like something that's being played out now and trying to convince all these maybe would be Christians or pseudo Christians to find a collective, find a moral compass, and then find people who want to be actioned about it, be activists about it. They're building Christian, quote unquote, Christian activists. And there are no Christian activists. There's just Christians. Now, do they do things like pray outside of abortion clinics? Yeah. Is that activism? I mean, you could say that. I mean, if I'm praying in my bedroom, is that activism? Yeah, I could say that too. No one's put me in jail for praying in my bedroom. That's probably coming since they locked up the 7 people singing hymns outside of abortion clinic for 11 years. That was, again, let's just push him, and push him. They're just poking a non-existent bear. They're creating it, and that's what James talks about. It's like this is a psyop. Do not fall for it. Now, where I don't think most Christians will fall for it, I do get nervous about the younger crowd. And I say this because we've seen a complete shift from like a classical liberal, which is where I think everyone kind of starts a base off of. And when I say classical, I can't define it well because I'm not super smart. But a classical liberal is basically a 1776 freedom, responsibility, cultural connection, the ideals of the West when it was, put forth by whatever metric you want to say, the Enlightenment. I like to think it was probably Christian Protestantism. That whole thing had a lot to play into it, and I think this is where people get wrapped up in, and this is what makes me nervous, is because if you forget what Christianity is and you take God out of Christianity, then it definitely becomes political. You can easily have a Christian politic, where it only works if you remove God. That's basically the concept. The idea that Christian and nationalism is shoved together is again an oxymoron. Um, we don't even have to bring up scriptures about my kingdom is not of this world. We don't war against flesh and blood, but principalities and spirits. You could do all this. We could break that down. It's not that important. I'm not even a pacifist. I don't think, Christians should lay down their arms at all costs. Not there. Do I think Christians should be political? Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I don't think it should be the center point of Christianity. And what I think is where James has it right is this whole Christian nationalism thing is making it so you can't separate Christianity from the state. It's combining it the same way the left does. There is no everything is political. They don't have a God. So their God is the government. So everything becomes political. All theology is built into policy. That's the rule. If you control the power, you are God. But on the right, the Christian part, you have God. And so it's not a politic. It's now you can vote according to your Christian morals, sure, but it's not a political stance. You can be this is going to blow people's minds, and it used to make more sense. You could be Christian and vote Democrat. You can have qualms about where they went from, abortion or civil rights. You can buck up against that, but there was a time where you could be Christian and be like, no, these parties are similar. I just want what's best for America, and I want these particular things. Now, do I agree with all the Democrat stance? No, but it does seem like they're a little bit more spot on than the Republican side. That used to be a thing. But this whole like hardcore woke left progressive ideology is created, and I think it's a common term on the internet, trad cats. It's like making being a young Catholic uh cool again, right? It's the new punk rock, these conservative trads, these traditional conservatives. There's a ton of great stuff in it. You don't have to throw the baby out with the bathwater. But to come to Catholicism because the world's falling apart and not coming because Christ is your savior might be your first clue that something might be off. If you find comfort in the politic of a traditional Catholic standpoint, be like they have all the morals I want, they have all the right. We need to this is where I want to go. This is the politic I want. This is what I want the world to look like. Is this, or even process? You could do traditional processism. That one's a little bit more difficult because the hierarchies are a little bit more thrown off, and we can talk about that. Hopefully, I'll talk about that if I don't rant myself off into a rabbit hole. But if you this whole thing, if you start to find yourself involved in the church because the politics are right, you might have the carriage before the horse. Yeah, carriage before the horse. That's not the message. Matter of fact, even if, and hear me out, we've seen this before. The trad cats, especially them, they took over the government and ruled the way the Catholic Church could rule a country. We've seen that before. It's that Leonardo DiCaprio memes. Like, I've seen this. It's the Back to the Future again. I've seen this. We've watched that happen. And then if you're like, well, what happens if, hear me out, what happens if Christian nationalists take over the country? Will we be a moral society again under coercion? Will, degradation be gone? No, it'll be hidden. Will people be morally, delinquent? Yeah, but it won't be as obvious. Will the streets be cleaner? Maybe. But I can tell you for sure that no one's coming to Christ because you force them to. I can tell you that because the key essential concept to Christianity is no one comes to Christ through coercion of the state or coercion of the people or the coercion of the government. Every time that happens, they get sold a false bit of goods. They're in it for society, they're not in it for the gospel. And once you start to build an entire culture that is only in it for a political social concept, like we want the nation to look like the way we want to look like, you're gonna that's not even including the buck up of all the other denominations. Hear me out. Let's game theory this real quick. What denomination takes over the government? We're like, no, David, it won't be a denomination. It'll just be gospel centered control of the United States of America. We'll all be in agreement. I guarantee the moment someone brings up praying to Mary, you're going to have half the country be like, whoa, praying to who? We don't need no mediator. We got Jesus. You're going to have fights. And again, we will just be playing out 1500s all over again. They're going to be burning Protestants at the stake. They're going to be drowning Catholics in the Mississippi River. It's going to go nuts. And that's because you just coerce people into a concept and they have no idea what it is. And so this is going to happen all over again. That's why here's another great example. Do you think this is actually, I'm getting ahead of myself. The coercion never works with Christianity. It's just not Christianity. People come to Christ through the love of others, and that's what we have. No one comes at the barrel of a gun. There's other religions that do that. And do they grow? Sure. Do they take over nations? Absolutely. Is it the way to God? No. I would rather have people come to Christ in a worn down, broken society and come genuinely than to not even know who Christ is because it's only a politic. It's only, well, I was born in America and everybody's Protestant here, and we all believe in the same, denomination, same. Sure, I think society might be better if everyone did that, but they wouldn't come to Christ. And so then I have to forfeit. So would I rather people be saved, or would I rather have a nation I can be proud of? Or however that would work, whatever that looks like to you. I just don't think that's even possible in the game. I don't think you can even take Christians. Here's a great experiment. Even your own church, you're like, hey, your own little church. I go to my church. Everybody loves everybody. We are the shining symbol. We are the light upon the hill. Go in there and go to the pastor and offer up an idea to do for free to change the color of the flooring, carpet, tile, whatever. Go, hey, I know it's light blue. I'm thinking about maroon. I'll do it for free. Floor's a little worn out. And watch your church fall in disarray. I've seen it happen. It happens all the time. People have different ideas of what they want and what they think things should look like. And that's just a small example of just a church. Now imagine that was a country. I mean, that's my point. But instead of it being a government and then you have people who believe in God over here, now it's government and God. So if you don't believe in God properly, now you go to jail. It's just not Christianity. It's just not. There is no Christianity that is able to do this. There is only one kingdom of God, and it ain't here. That's just what it is. Now, can we? Here's the flip side. Before I go on some weird, you think I'm some kind of liberal theologian. No, I read those guys are quacks. Definitely not a liberal theologian. I don't see that. You won't see me attending a rainbow church. It's just not. I don't think like that. I'm a bit of a pacifist only when I think it's necessary. I don't think again, the coercion thing. I don't think anybody comes to Christ at the barrel of a gun or the point of a knife. But I do believe in you have a responsibility, even as a Christian, uh, to defend those who need defending. I might actually do a whole episode over that and dive deep into Bonhoeffer. I think he's probably one of my favorite examples of what it means to be a pacifist Christian and a Christian call to action when necessary. I think if you don't know, go look up Bonhoeffer, um, or go watch the movie Valkyrie with Tom Cruise. Similar thing, sort of. I don't think this ends well for Christians in general. I just don't think it's going to turn out in your best interest. And that's kind of the whole point in the beginning, that classical liberal thing, the separation of church and state. And I know all the atheists always like to pull that separation of church and state. We don't need your God in our courtroom. That wasn't even the point of the whole thing. The whole thing was separating the government out of church. We just want government involvement in the church. Um, that's initially where it came from. And so, newsflash, the entire government is built off a Christian idea, and I say a Protestant one. That's where that liberal thing comes from. Now, to jump and segue to this, I've had multiple conversations with a buddy of mine. I'll say buddy, acquaintance of mine, big in loves, early founding fathers history. And we went back and forth about this because he thinks monarchy might be the only, not the best solution, the only solution to be able to come out of where we are now. Now, I disagree, but he blames, and I've heard this from Christian nationalists, or at least from what I think are Christian, at least what I've been told, that this concept of Protestant theology, the one without a hierarchy, there's no pope to reign down supreme. What is a dictate? This Protestant theology gave birth, including the Enlightenment, but we're all smart enough to know the Enlightenment was brilliant because the printing press and theology, the Protestant theology came from that too. I won't go into that, but is say this whole liberal woke thing was only able to come about because of Protestant theology and it being weak in its stance when it came to upholding laws and civility. What do I mean by that? When it came to Protestant theology and the overwhelming aspect of this, giving people their own response. It's again, this is why I function easily with the libertarians, because it gives people the responsibility to make the decision for themselves, to read the Bible for themselves. Now, does it organize in a great collective? Is a Protestant church super powerful that they have this one hierarchy and everybody? No, they're scattered. And most of the time, again, they can't agree on majority of things. Is that a feature or is that a bug? I don't think it's a bug. I think it's a feature. And we used to say this growing up, well, not growing up, but like when being in ministry, um, we didn't want a uniform Christian church. Not our church, but like we wanted unity with churches. I didn't want every church to look like the one I had or I was going to. I just wanted them to be unified in the center point of the gospel. Now, do they play? They play loud music at the other church. They're all going out. No. And to bring up like a stupid different strokes for different folks, there's also cultural differences. As long as it's segued into, not segue, as long as the gospel, the message of Christ is the cornerstone, churches are going to participate however they participate. Now, do I think some of them are way off? Sure. But we can always point to whether or not they're following the gospel or not. If you love Southern Baptist stuff and you're like, every time someone stands on stage with an electric guitar, they're just worshiping Satan, I got news to tell you. Uh, your organ was outlawed by some church at some point in time. Like, what is this devil machine? matter. They were doing the same thing. It's over and over again. I just think it's a little bit far. If you drift away from the gospel, then it's a whole. But this goes back to my point. It's individual responsibility. It leaves it up to the individual to figure out how they're going to function in society. Where libertarianism and this concept does go haywire is under one stance. No man is an island unto his own. Means everything that you do has a ripple effect in the society around you. But that doesn't mean that you have to control society to stop that. Is where the Christian thing comes in. It's we live by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony. That is the key factor of being a Christian and how you walk through and traverse this earth. You are a sojourner. I use that word a lot. You are not from here. I hate to tell you this. America's great. It's a gift from God. I totally love it. I think it was divinely orchestrated. I think God had a hand in creating America for sure. So many great things that came out of America. What I don't think is America is the kingdom of God. And I don't think had Christians, there were Christians in Rome, right? They all watched Rome fall too. They got blamed for it a lot of the time, which is kind of what we're seeing now. Don't know if you know that from the whole title of the thing and what I talked about in the first part. Do you think they were sent? Christ came down to make sure Rome didn't fall apart. If that was Christ's intention, like he's like, I'm coming in blood and sins and resurrection and you're all saved. Now make sure this Rome thing, it stays up to par. Do you think his concern was Rome? Or was his concern for the church and the church expanding throughout the entire world? Like that was his main focus. If you're a Christian, your main focus needs to be somewhere in that realm. Now, do you want to save America? Yeah, dude, I want to save America. I want to do whatever I can to make sure this thing stays on the right path. Is it my top number one priority? No, it's not. And I don't think it can be if you're really a Christian. I don't know how you take the political and rise it above anything outside of where it should be. That's called idolatry. When you take I'm not saying politics is bad. Again, it's only bad when you misuse something that is meant for another thing. That's the entire Old Testament. God gives you purpose and you take that purpose and you warp it. And I mean, that's what Satan does. He takes something that was meant for a reason and then distorts it into a counterfeit version of that. And so I don't know. Sure, I'll read some other books. Some fun. I should probably put these. Hold on, let me put these comments up. If you're going to keep commenting, I'll put them up real quick. I forgot how to do this. Here we go. They're not showing up. All right, well, that's not working. Anyway, so that was my point. The political has stay where it is, and it's great. And I think every Christian should be involved in politics. I don't think you should get those mixed up. And as soon as you do, you're falling for a false gospel. And that's kind of where it's at. But going back to this Christian nationalism thing, I think it's just a psyop. I think if you want to defeat this and you want to stay unreactionary, especially when they're calling you a white rule raging out, the best thing to do is laugh at them. No, I spoke about this earlier about being like, I think there's always a call to action. I think any call to action that isn't, if you haven't prayed first, you're not ready for a call of action. If you haven't spent time on your knees in prayer and you're like, I got my Glock locked, I'm ready, 1776, we'd be stacking bodies by now. Well, if you haven't even sat down to pray about that first, you're not ready. You're not ready for this. And you're looking to do more than you are capable of. And so I think if you follow the gospel, this Christian nationalism thing shouldn't scare you. And I think that's the best thing. I think you should laugh at it. It's a psyop. It's a honeypot. It's to get you to feel ostracized. The one thing that the left does do well is collectivize. One thing the right doesn't do as well is collectivize. I think that's innately a Christian concept. I think it's voluntary collectivism. It's not forced. You're not forced out. I think that collective concept is built into the church. Why I think that the non-coercive part is what makes the church so beautiful about what it is. It's because people find themselves going there, not because they should or they need to or whatever. It's because they find, or yeah, I mean, all those things above, but not because someone's forcing them to go there. I think that's the key to solving. And I've said this before. If you think voting for Trump's gonna save America, I don't know if most people believe that. I think most, even Trump supporters, believe Jesus is the best bet to save America. I think Trump just is another avenue. Again, keeping politics where it is, not raising Trump up to be an idol, not doing it as staying in a Christian realm of being like, I understand the responsibility I have, even if you think voting's fake and it was stolen. Here's a good example. I'll give you a good example. Even if you think voting's fake and 2020 was stolen and Trump didn't get it, um, I'll invoke Pascal's wager on this. Maybe you're right. Maybe it was. Maybe it wasn't the whole thing. Maybe you think voting's dumb, and I keep seeing these memes like if you think you're gonna vote your way out of this, you're dumb. I get it, but it's Pascal's wager. Yeah, it might be a dumb thing. I'm still gonna do it because I'm a responsible adult and I exhaust everything I can uh, to go in a direction that I'd like to. And so I don't think you're dumb for voting, even if you're like, I'm not even sure if this thing's being counted. These, sure, it's all rigged. I'm all for it. Still vote. It's still a thing. Um, I Robot Devil says I can't believe adult men still buy into this nonsense. Pie in the sky is a lie. I agree. Pie in the sky is a lie. That's kind of my point. I don't think there is a utopia out there. Outside of the kingdom of God. And so I stand by that. That's why this whole Christian nationalism thing seems asinine, as if you were going to be able to control all aspects around you. Like you're going to take over the world and make sure. If you want to do that, then there's plenty of religions that there's key thing. Robot Devil's been talking about them. You can do all that stuff if you want. You can sure, there's plenty of religions out there that will coercively conquer the world the way they see fit. It's just not the Christian way. It's just not. Anyway, thanks for tuning in to the super serious live stream. I'm sorry I didn't have that many jokes tonight. It's actually been a long weekend, so this is like my second cup of coffee and it's late. But this was a topic that was been bothering me. I actually had to look into. And even my comments on it don't do justice. I think I'm failing miserably at this concept, but I did want to talk about it because I did think the reaction to what people were talking about, the white roll rage and how everyone was just posting gifs of rednecks dancing and stuff. It was fun and I enjoyed that. I think clowns should be laughed at, and so when a clown makes a joke, that's your best response. And I think that's a Christian ethic. I definitely think that's Christian ethic. I think when people's identities are found in something that's transcendent, they don't need to have their identity backed up by the government. That's what the left does. Christians, the government doesn't tell them. Oh, that was the other thing. Oh, I didn't even bring that up. I saw another clip and they were talking about all these Christian nationalists believe their rights came from by God. And I was like, whoa, every Christian believes that. That's not even a politic. That's legit, and it's found in our government. And I heard a ton of podcasts of just breaking down how dumb that person was to make that claim. But then it also was a telltale sign. Like, oh my God, these people really they don't have God, so of course they believe that their rights are just winked up by the society. Everything's a social construct. Gender's made up. Why can't our rights be made up? Of course they want to take over political power because then they can just give rights to anybody because it's not a real thing. It's like money. They're just going to print it. Might as well just print up some rights with it. People are lost, man. And so that was a big thing. I didn't even bring that up this entire hour. I apologize. But yeah, they're lumping all of you people. They're lumping you all together. And then if you're not even a white, this is the best part. This is how you know it's a giant psyop to get you to collectivize against them. They lump anybody who has a somewhat similar belief, like they said in that clip, together. Like, yeah, you may have not known where Obama was born, but now you're a white supremacist Christian nationalist. They lump everybody together. They do that with even black people. Well, Larry Elder was the black face of white supremacy. They don't care. It's a game to them. It's just a game. It's just to get you mad. It's just to get you mad. Because what happens when you get mad? I don't know, storm a Capitol or something. They don't care. They don't care about that. They want that. They want to see you get pissed. That's why I say before you do anything dumb like a honeypot, you just lap that up or you try to kidnap a government. Why don't you sit down and pray about it? Why don't you ask your pastor, hey man, is this a good idea or should I? Oh, I shouldn't. I should focus on my family and focus on the church and talk about the gospel. I shouldn't kidnap governor. What's wrong with you? We need to rise to action. Rise to action by getting on your knees and praying. I almost stopped at the getting on your knees thing. That would have been kind of funny. Nope, Kamala Harris does stuff like that. We don't do that. We pray. We get on our knees. There's a little Kamala Harris joke. Can't do a live stream without one of them. Anyway, I love you guys. I appreciate you tuning in. This Pardonal Live every Sunday, 8 o'clock, never on time. Robot Devil says we shouldn't kidnap a governor. I agree. Let's definitely not do that. I don't even know where that, again, I think someone got triggered. And I think if you're easily triggered, you're not reading your Bible enough. You're just not. You're not. You're mixing things up. Robot Devil's right. Anyway, love you guys. I'll be back next week. We'll talk about something fun. Maybe Marvel will bomb another. Oh, they did. Oh, that's right. Madam Web sucked. Maybe I'll talk about that. Or I won't. It sucked. There's nothing to talk about. I didn't even see it. And I was disappointed because I thought maybe they'll do something fun with this. But that's Sony for you. Anyway, you guys have a great week. I will see you back here next week, if not before then.